Welcome to another Pow Pow World video. If you don't know what Pow Pow World is, in short, I'm creating my own creature collector world inspired by the likes of Pokemon, Digimon, and other monster tamers. The collectible critters of this world are called Pow Pows, and on this channel, I'll be showing you how I designed them as well as building out my fictional world piece by piece. I highly recommend starting from the beginning if you want to be up to date with everything, but otherwise, let's continue on with the video. So from the title of this video, you can see that I have added yet another new type to the type system. Today, I'll be going over the Pow Pow that forced my hand into making this decision, as well as two other Pow Pow lines that are somewhat related to the topic. So let's just dive into the designs. This Pow Pow is probably the randomest design yet. I've kind of had a fascination with chickens lately, and I was on a walk with my dog when suddenly the idea for a slot machine chicken stumbled into my head, and it just wouldn't go away until I doodled it down. I kind of like the idea of the chicken kind of being like a slot or gacha machine that people would feed gold coins and it would lay various types of eggs. The grand prize being a large golden egg worth tons of money, but most of the eggs it lays ends up being duds or even sometimes mini egg bombs that would immediately blow up on you the moment you touch it. I thought this concept was pretty fun, and I could imagine people in Pow Pow World gambling away their life savings for golden eggs. I drew it in the signature Pokemon bird pose with the one wing up, but it has a purpose. Once you feed it a gold coin and its eyes have that sparkle in them, this Pow Pow will lift up one of its wings for you to pull it down like a slot machine lever, and then out will come a randomized egg. Clucky, the lucky egg Pow Pow. Each Clucky has its own ratio and randomness when it comes to the eggs it lays. People frequent their favorite Clucky believing it is luckier than others. In general, it is advised people not feed Clucky their money since they will often lose more than they will win. The name Clucky comes from cluck, like the sounds a chicken makes, and lucky. This is actually my favorite name so far. It's a really simple design, but I'm really happy with it. I worry it only reads as a straight up chicken, but I didn't want to go too crazy with the slots gacha machine aspect in its design. I wanted to be quite subtle about it. It still had to look like a living creature after all. I also like how it incorporates a bit of gambling in this world, which is a much more seedy concept than anything we've really had so far. It actually kind of reminds me of how initial Pokemon games had a slot machine minigame, but they've now strayed away from it since gambling is not very kid friendly. But for my world, I don't really care too much if it is kid friendly or not, so gambling with Clucky is totally okay with me. At least for now. I just really like how I can imagine this Pow Pow incorporated in the world. I imagine there is some sort of Vegas-like city with casinos that are filled with Clucky or something like that. I would have to think about it more so it would make sense, but overall I just like what it does for the world. A weird Pow Pow, but another favorite of mine so far. As you can see, it has the night type, as well as the newly added lucky type. I know, another new type. It's a type I really like, but I don't know how often I'll be able to utilize it, so it's still really on the fence whether it stays or not. Again, like with Fiendle from 2 videos ago, no type in my system really did this design justice. And I just really like the idea of the lucky type. It's fun and unique, and it fits so perfectly here. I also really value types that are more abstract and that I could apply on a wide variety of designs, and I think this new typing does that potentially. Here's the updated type list, by the way. I'm sure it's not easy to remember them, so I'll try to show it every now and then, especially if a new type is added like in this video. Again, it's all subject to change, and I already am thinking of getting rid of at least one type, and potentially adding more. I also gave it the night typing because gambling is kind of seen as a more nightly activity. Plus it is a bit seedy, so I felt it was appropriate. I didn't want it to be just lucky type since I'm not sure if it's an ideal candidate to represent the newly added type as it stands on its own. For this next line, the evolution was designed first, but of course, I'll be going over the first stage design first. This design is based on goldfish lanterns. I saw these a while ago and absolutely fell in love with them. I did some quick research and apparently they originated from a small town in western Japan called Yanai. In Japan, lanterns are typically hung up during times of festivals, and many festivals feature games where children can win a pet goldfish. This is said to be the inspiration for the goldfish lanterns in Yanai. The town has an annual summer festival where they parade 30 of these giant goldfish lanterns through the town. I love that, and it brings me back to my childhood of desperately trying to win goldfish at carnival games and my family rooting against me because they knew I would take terrible care of it. For these nostalgic reasons, I knew I had to make a Pow Pow based on these goldfish lanterns. I love the round shape of them, which is what makes them so appealing to me in the first place. It adds a lot of character to the design and kind of makes it appear balloonish in a way, which I adore. I wanted to simplify the fins and tails just to keep the design cohesive and clean. Added a bit of winged eyeliner to it just to give it a touch of prettiness and personality, and the design was pretty good from there. Goldish, the pond fish Pow Pow. Goldish enjoy living in rivers and ponds. Strong Goldish will even attempt to swim up waterfalls. These Pow Pow come in a variety of colors. Among the color variations, gold is the most sought after by collectors. It is believed gold Goldish bring good fortune to those who raise one. The name Goldish comes from gold and goldfish. This is our first Pow Pow with color variants that are not its quote-unquote shiny. I still need to figure out a word to replace that for my world since this isn't Pokemon. But besides the point, Goldish come in 6 colors: red, blue, green, black, pink, and gold, each with their own shiny variation as well. I wanted to do different colors since goldfish in real life come in a variety of colors and patterns. Plus, I could imagine them in people's ponds and rivers, and it would be just so much more exciting if there was more than one color. Every color variation of Goldish has the same rarity, so about 1 in 5, except for the gold ones. The gold ones are very rare. I'm thinking like 1 in 1,000 rare, but I haven't settled on anything yet. Because of this, they are valued much more highly and is considered to be very lucky to find one, which also ties in with its color being gold. Because of this, I decided to give the gold color variant the added lucky type. I thought this would be a fun little addition since I am going to include lucky as a typing. It felt really perfect for this line too with its color variants and adds something pretty different that I haven't really seen in Pokemon. The Tauros forms being kind of the closest thing to it, but still pretty different I think. This is only if I end up keeping the lucky type. I'm still really wishy-washy with my type system right now, and like all things in Pow Pow world, they are subject to change. Anyway, let's get on to its evolution. The design for its evolution actually started while I was designing its first stage form. I already knew I wanted to make a 2-stage line, so it doesn't really matter for me which one I start with since one design will help inform the other. The concept behind this line is based on the same mythical tale that Magikarp line from Pokemon is based on. A carp that can swim upstream and up a waterfall will transform into a dragon. I've always really enjoyed this tale and the imagery alongside it, so I knew I wanted to make a Pow Pow based off this. Of course, Magikarp already does this very well, but I wanted to bring my own twist to this concept. To make this line stand out from the Magikarp line, I incorporated the secondary design concept of koinoburi, which are carp-shaped windsocks. These carp windsocks are typically put up to celebrate Children's Day, a national holiday in Japan. The carps are meant to symbolize strength, courage, and the hope that children will grow up healthily. This too is based on the tale of the carps swimming upstream, so it all felt like it worked together so perfectly. Plus, the fish lantern turning into a carp windsock felt kinda related too, which is great. I didn't want the fish to evolve into a full-on dragon though. I still very much wanted it to be a fish-based creature with dragon-like qualities. I love the shape and look of how the koinoburi stylizes the carp. The carp windsock already felt quite dragon-esque to me with its long tubular body. So I just wanted to push those dragon qualities a bit further. Its shape and look also reminded me of the fire rocket thing from Mulan, and I tried to lean a bit into that. Its long form, while feeling more dragon-like, it also still felt very serpentine and eel-like, which is good, so that it still stays related to its fish origins. When making the tail, I took inspiration from betta fish with their long flowy tails, but I thought taking the tail and turning it into streamers would make it feel much more mystical and tie it to its origins of being a carp windsock. It also adds a very festive component to it, which is important since its design concept inspirations are heavily associated and based in festivals. You can see earlier that I tried adding another pair of tendril/whisker things to its head to try to break up the silhouette more, but it felt tacked on and not very thoughtful. If I get stuck on part of the design, I'll try to advance the rendering by lining it and coloring it in. Pushing the design to a more finished stage tends to help me better see the flaws or shortcomings of the design. When it is just lines or it's underdeveloped, there are too many open-ended issues. As you can see, I lengthened the whiskers and I think that really did a lot to push the flowiness and break up the silhouette just a bit more. I had a tough time breaking up the body with patterns. It was tough to strike the line between too much and too little. At first I thought breaking up the body would be a good idea since it is a very long form, but it kind of felt Gyarados-like, so I kind of opted out. I wasn't liking it very much anyway. I ended up going very simple with the pattern, but I think it does enough. I tend to err on the simple side of things when it comes to designs, but I do worry it could use a bit more, but I can always revisit it and it's good enough for now. Wyndrin, the dragonfish Pow. Goldish with the courage and strength to swim up to the top of a waterfall will be rewarded with the ability to fly by turning into a Wyndrin. Although Wyndrin can return to the water, they prefer spending most of their time exploring the skies. They enjoy the spectacles of festivals, so people often spot them during times of festivities. This has led to certain festival decorations being inspired by Wyndrin. And of course, since Goldish had different color variants, so does Wyndrin. The color of its Prevo informed the color of its face patterns and streamers. However, the gold variant is special. It will turn into a red Wyndrin and will keep the added lucky type. I chose red since it's a more striking color than gold, but also red is often associated with good fortune as well. Hence why you see a lot of red and gold during Lunar New Year. But don't worry, I'll make the shiny gold so it still has that gold motif going on. Overall, I am really happy with this line. I love all the concepts and themes it incorporates and the gimmick it has with its colors. I think it's really fun and I hope I can make more interesting Pow like this going forward. Of course, every Pow can't be like this since it'd be a bit overwhelming I think, but when the time is right and if it's the concept, like in this case, it's really exciting to have a gimmick. While I love the concept, I feel like both designs could just use a bit of something. I feel like they're so close, but one addition or a small change can really help them fly. Especially for Wyndrin since it's the evolution. So I will definitely keep its design in mind, and if you have any suggestions, of course feel free to drop them. It's always helpful to have other people's ideas and opinions. Now let's get to the last Pow line for this video. Like many of my designs, the evolution was designed first, but I always like to present them in evolutionary line order. As you can see, it is a very simple design, so there's not much time to talk over the time lapse. Oh shoot, it's already ending, so let's just talk later in the next part. Spek, the spectral Pow. Spek only come out during the nighttime. They don't enjoy being isolated, so they will often seek out other souls. I'm pretty happy with the name since it comes from spectral, but also the word spec, like a tiny spot of something. I love how in games like Legend Arceus, Tears of the Kingdom, or even in Animal Crossing, how you can collect floating souls bits in the overworld. It's something I've always enjoyed and I always love that spirit ghostly stuff. And that is what Spek is supposed to be like. Just this little spectral entity that very simply represents spirits and souls and things of the like. And the reason I chose to include it in this video is because it also has color variants. 4 to be exact. We have pink, yellow, red, and green. Unlike Goldish, there is no special color variant, and they also all have the same shiny. The idea is that to evolve Spek, you need to collect one of each of the 4 colors of Spek. If you do and have them all in your party, they will merge together to form its evolution, Phanton. A while back, I was lying on the couch, as I often am, and I was daydreaming when suddenly this design popped into my head. I got to my iPad as fast as I could to doodle it down. As always, it was way cooler in my head than on paper, but I like to doodle enough to keep it around. Fast forward to a few months ago and I'm creating Pow designs. I thought, hey, this wouldn't be a bad Pow design. I imagine this creature is actually just a bunch of smaller entities that have unified together to become one larger entity. Which is why I came up with Spek and its evolution method of collecting all 4 colors. I like imagining all these little spirits pieces coming together to form one large spirit creature, while still showing a bit of its original smaller forms. It's cool to imagine this thing floating around the world and is something I could see in the spirit world of Avatar or in Spirited Away, if given the right stylization of course. Phanton, the spirit amalgamate. Phanton continue collecting spirits to add to its mass as it drifts through existence. Spirits are drawn to Phanton since they are quite neutral and passive in nature, so spirits feel safe traveling with Phanton. The name Phanton comes from phantom and ton as in many. It's a simple design, but I think it has enough going on. I don't think it needs anything else, but I feel like I could draw it a bit better. but I'm happy with it for now. It's a bit funky, and that's what I really enjoy about it. I also enjoy its colors quite a bit. Weird floaty creatures always makes fantasy worlds more interesting to me, and I think this guy does just that. I don't know if it's just me, but the mouth kinda makes it look like a whale, which I don't mind. It does have ton in the name, so it kinda works out. As a line that stays the single spirit type, I actually really like how it represents that type. One thing I definitely want to do is create a single type Pow Pow of every type, so you can get a good representation on what that type is all about, or at least a good idea on it. It's also just good for me for justifying and figuring out what types are good or not. Oh, also to have a shiny Phanton, one of the 4 Spek you combine must be a shiny. A shiny Spek can take the place of any of the other 4 colored Spek needed for the evolution. Also, I do realize it's a bit weird to combine 4 entities because in theory, those are 4 individual creatures that have now been lost to one single entity. It's why I wanted to keep their designs very simple and detached so that it wouldn't feel so weird for it to become part of a larger singular creature. But I completely understand if that part of the concept is a bit funky, but I kinda like that. So these are our 5 Pow Pow designs for today. Before making this video, Clucky was my favorite of the bunch. But now that I've talked a bit about all of them, I've actually really developed a strong fondness for Goldish and Wyndrin. But all 5 Pow Pow really speak toward my sensibilities and preferences as far as concepts and designs go. Be sure to let me know your thoughts on them. Feel free to rate them based on how much you like them or dislike them too, if you don't have any specific words to say about them. And don't worry about my feelings, they will not be hurt at all. Everyone has their own preferences and I totally get that. I mean, it's all subjective anyway, so no worries. In addition, feedback is definitely welcome. Always appreciate an outside perspective since it's pretty isolated over here in Pow Pow World Design Headquarters. Also, I'd like to take a moment to retcon 2 things about Pow Pow World. Let's start with the smaller retcon. In the past, I referred to multiple Pow Pow as Pow Pows with an S, but I'd like to have the word Pow Pow to be both the singular and plural form. It's a small thing, but it makes things simpler for me. The second change is also word related, but arguably much more impactful. I'm going to change the term Pow Pow Captains. I kinda had a feeling I was going to change Captain eventually, but I think it's finally the time. I knew I had to change it because when I was talking to my partner, she thought Captain was a rank you have to achieve as a Pow Pow trainer, which I totally get. There is an implied hierarchy with the word Captain, so it's time to abandon that shit. I actually never got to explain why I chose the word Captain in the first place, so it seems like a good time to do that. I knew I definitely didn't want to do the word trainer like in Pokemon because it's too similar, but I don't like the word that much anyway. A lot of other creature collectors use the word tamer instead, but I didn't like how that word made your creatures feel like you are their master and that they are just wild beasts that must obey you. I want people in Pow Pow to be all part of the same team, and you're like their leader who helps to guide them to become stronger. And again, this made me think of One Piece. Luffy is the captain and head of his crew, but he is not their owner. He's their friend and crewmate also. So it's why I originally chose the word captain, but I'm definitely ready to replace it for something more straightforward. And the new title to replace it is Scout. It was really tough to decide, but I really like the word Scout. It's general enough to work and it also has themes of exploration and adventuring, which is great. So Pow Pow Scout is the new title for those who raise and or collect Pow Pow. And of course, instead of Captain's Passport, it is now Scout's Passport. Hopefully y'all like the change, but always feel free to let me know what you think below. But that's pretty much it for today's video. If you enjoyed your time here, considering liking the video, subscribe if you're interested in more, and if you're already subscribed, thanks! But more than anything, thanks so much for taking the time in your day to watch. And with that, I will see ya next time.